Hello, everybody.
Hello. Welcome.
Welcome. You're welcome.
Thank you. You're welcome.
Yeah,
Thank you.
welcome to Don't Worry Wednesday. How's it going?
Great.
I'm gonna put some stuff in the chat while I try and talk and do this at the
Yeah.
same time. If only I was chewing gum and walking
Yeah.
as well.
That's doing all those. Just try to get every subconscious activity going on at once, and
I know.
then
I will
maybe
do that. I will do that.
yeah. hmm I'm doing
So
really
yes,
good now that I'm the Spaghetti John,
you
and
are
I've
Spaghetti
become
John.
the spaghetti of my own volition.
Wait, you can't hear us? Hold on a second.
Spaghetti John. Oh
Oh,
no,
coming through on my YouTube. I was gonna.
Oh
Oh,
no, wait,
cool.
that was me.
Whew,
Great.
that's
Thanks,
lucky.
Riku.
Yes.
Riku, you're just messing with us.
Yeah, that's all right. Welcome everybody. Wow, we've got a vibrant chat going on already. You guys are awesome. Welcome to Don't Worry Wednesday. This is a show that's all about you guys, all about stuff that you're going through, things going on in your lives. They could be happy times, they could be sad times, because that's kind of the soup that we're all swimming in life. You know, you go through fun and struggle, and it kind of cycles around, and there's emotions involved, and there's all kinds of stuff, and we got other people around us that we have to deal with too, and oh my gosh, it can get to be a mess sometimes. So that's why we're here. We want to help in any way we possibly can. We're not professional therapists or counselors or anything like that. We just want to be your friend, and we want to help in any way we possibly can. We want to talk to you, offer some advice, maybe some perspective, but most of all, we want to make sure that you feel loved and encouraged, because that's exactly what you are, and you are always welcome here. We love you guys. We love even those of you who are lurking and not in the chat. You're welcome to join the chat whenever you're ready. But we're happy to have you here.
Whenever you get that, when we get the gall, when we get the courage, or just the want. You're like, I have the courage, I just don't want to.
Yeah,
that's fine.
That's all right. That's all right. So yeah. So anyway, welcome. This is our Wednesday show, and here we are.
Right. Lurking is my blood. Wow.
Lurker.
It does lurk it does lurk under the skin.
Yes.
Blood.
But I'm pretty confident that you're a real person, Nyansai. I'm pretty confident. I'm not 100% sure, but I'm getting there.
still trying to believe.
I mean, who could make could an actual person make artwork that good?
That's true. That's a good point. Maybe
not. I mean, it's angelic, So.
Maybe Nyansai is the first edition of AI. That's why their art is so good.
Oh, you're actually Picasso.
Actually, Picasso's a real person. All right.
Yep.
Picasso. I want to see that art. I want to see anime Picasso, where just everything's in the wrong size, in the wrong perspective. Like the nose comes out the side of the face this way, but the two eyes are looking straight at you.
Yes.
That's Picasso.
Yeah, it's AI. That's perfect.
Yep,
Jesse?
AI.
What?
Yo, a poke's head in it. Oh, well. What are you doing here, man? Welcome. Nice to see you.
Yes, we've got some names we haven't seen in a hot minute. Riku, Vana, Zell, a few of you. Cell was here. Yeah. Hatsu, you're back. Man, you guys, it's awesome to see you guys.
Yeah.
Yep. So I think there was something I forgot. Oh, I did forget something. I put it in the chat, but if you have a topic you would like us to talk about, you can submit it at don'tworrywednesday.com. That's don'tworrywednesday.com.
Oh, hey, Bonnie.
You can scroll up. Hey, Bonnie. You can scroll up and click the link in the chat. Or you know what? Maybe I'll just post it again. What do you think about that?
Do it.
What you want?
Do it.
What you gonna think about that?
Bam. That's an ice cream song.
It is.
Yeah.
But it's not a very good rendition. And it's not what you're going to think about that. It's what you're going to do about that.
Yeah,
right?
well, that's fine.
Close
you got the Joe-ified version.
Yes, I songified it Joe-ify style.
Yeah. That's right. Or you
I
change the lyrics
songified.
just
I
ever so
songified
slightly.
a song. So wait, if you
Mm.
take a song, can you songify a song?
Yeah, you could songify that. Yeah, you can make them sing different
If
melodies
it's
of the same thing, or you could take a song and then you like split up the different phrases or different words so that they say the wrong things.
oh, like a Michael Moore
Hmm.
movie.
Like exactly like a Boogie More. Wow, dude. Way
Sorry.
to just call
What
him
year is
out.
this? Man, I had totally wow. I dated
Wow.
myself. Actually, I was thinking about this today. Like I'm so old. I mean, I'm still 29, but I'm an old 29, right?
Yeah, you're an old
I'm on the
29.
back end of 29, right?
You've been in for a while too.
So, but I was like thinking about this. I'm like, you can really kind of tell how old you are by how many cars you've had.
Oh, interesting.
Like, how many cars have you driven? I was thinking back to all the different cars that I've driven throughout my life, starting from when I like turned 16 and had a
Mm.
little Ford Tempo, and then another Ford Tempo, and then a Pontiac 6000, and a oh my gosh, I don't even remember all of them, what they're
Wow.
called. Like, I can picture it, but I just don't remember what it was, right?
Yeah.
But anyway, that's neither here
Yeah,
nor there. I'm old.
some people have never had a car.
That's true.
Yep. Some people are like 80 and they've still never driven. You know, they just get around by bus.
That's true.
You
I have
know.
a cousin who I believe he's in his 30s and he doesn't have a driver's license, but he lives in a city where there's
Thanks,
public
Jesse.
transportation everywhere. Ah,
Oh yeah,
yes.
right.
Much love, Jesse. Um, what third motorcycle? I have not even had one motorcycle.
Dang.
Dang.
You know what? Motorcycles scare me.
They
Like,
they kind of
not to
scare me
drive
too.
one, but I mean to drive near one. I'm just
Mm.
always terrified. You know, it's like driving one, I'd probably be like, oh yeah, this is cool. This is fun. I don't feel unsafe at all. But like being in a car with one next to me is just the most terrifying.
Yes. Or when
Hmm.
it's like packed, right? Like traffic jam and then
Oh
there's one like
yeah.
trying to zip in between.
Oh yeah. Yeah, and that's
Uh-huh.
legal.
Is it?
Crazy. Yeah, they made it
Wow.
legal.
Even in America?
Hmm. Yeah, America, yeah, has it legal in certain states.
Wow. Well, I didn't know
Yeah.
that. That
Yeah.
seems really that freaks me out as a driver.
You think that they wouldn't legalize that, but that's really crazy.
I know.
They're cool. They're cool. They look awesome.
They
But
save you
they're
on
terrifying,
gas
dude.
mileage, man.
Yeah, that's true.
Yep.
That would
I
be a lot
remember.
of saving, I guess, Mile. Yeah,
Yes, I
that makes a
remember a
lot of sense.
coworker had a motorcycle that she drove to work all the way. Drove? Do you drive a motorcycle or you ride a
Yeah, you drive.
motorcycle?
That's
I don't know.
it's
I've
weird
never
because
heard
you
a
don't.
biker say, "I'm gonna go for a motorcycle drive."
Yeah, you don't. They don't say drive. They say ride, which is weird, because
Yeah.
that's weird because you ride a horse because you don't make the horse go. The horse goes himself.
But you drive multiple horses, right? If you have like a carriage with more than one horse,
Yeah,
then you drive that.
right. Man, the drive and ride whole thing is wonky.
Well,
You
it's
don't
like
ride. You technically drive a bicycle. You don't ride one, but you ride one.
yeah, it's
You do
true.
both. You do both. You can't drive something and not ride it. Well, you technically can
Kind of.
because you can drive a drone.
Yes, you can. But then you
You
probably
don't.
are an operator. You're operating it,
Yeah. Yeah, but if you have
technically
like one of those
speaking.
cars, the RC cars, you're an
Uh-huh.
operator, but you technically say like I'm driving that.
I'm driving it. Yeah.
Yeah, although it feels weird. Okay, anyways, this is
What about a
English is
convertible?
ridiculous. You can't ride a drone. That's great. Well, you certainly shouldn't
I mean,
try.
if it was big enough, you might be able to ride a drone.
Yeah, I want a drone I can drive and ride.
Well,
Sounds
but
awesome.
nobody's been able to explain this one to me as we're on this topic of riding and driving. Why is it that you drive on a parkway and park on a driveway?
It's because English is dumb.
Why? Why is that?
Yeah, you drive on a parkway and you park
Yep.
on a driveway.
I know, deep. We've gone into deep thought mode here. So
They do have rideable drones. Jeez. Well, all right. See,
you
I don't
better
know.
really
I don't know
trust
the
the
world.
operator of that if you're gonna ride on it.
Yeah. Well, I guess that's true for everything.
Yeah, yeah, that's yep. You get in a plane. I've never met the pilot before.
Yeah.
I just
Well, people
I just trust them.
do Ubers all the time.
No, that's
Yeah.
yep. Ubers, cars, limousines.
Yeah, and then when you're driving a car, you have to trust all the operators around you
You
because those
do.
guys run right into you.
They will. If you're not careful.
Mm-hmm.
I've been run into before
Mm-hmm.
in one
Me
of the
too.
many cars that I've had. Actually, a few of them, I
Mm-hmm.
think.
Yeah, I think I've gotten run into a couple times.
I,
Anyhow,
Saule, you are so smart. Because a
yeah.
parkway is a parking lot during rush hour, yes. And the driveway is for driving up to the garage. You have solved the mystery. Oh my gosh.
I love you, Saturday. You're awesome. All right. This
In
is great.
German,
This is a great opener. Thank you guys
park
so
on a
much for the
parklet.
fun chat. You guys are awesome.
Yes.
But what do you say we get on with the show?
All right, we can totally do that. So anyway, thank you guys for being here. Thank you guys for our banter. I never even asked how you doing in the chat. You guys doing all right? How you doing, Ryan?
I'm doing fantastic. Doing great, especially now that I've been promoted to the Spaghetti John. How about
Yes,
you? How are you doing, Joe?
man, I'm so good. If I was any better, I'd be twins. You wouldn't even believe
Have to cut you right in half. It's like that's too much goodness in one man. I'm gonna have to cut that in half. Make
it.
twins.
Make some twins.
Mm-hmm.
Except I'm not a starfish.
This whole time.
This whole time, I'm not a starfish. I know you thought
I'm
I
gonna have
was.
to. I'm gonna go have to journal after this.
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
All right. Well, yes, let's get on with some topics before we get even more out in the weeds. But anyway, you guys are awesome. Break up? What are you talking about? Break up? We're never breaking up.
Yeah.
I've broken up with all kinds of people and bands. And this is one dude I'm sticking with. Or, well, he's going to have to deal with me until I die. Because I'm going to beat him to
Yeah.
death.
He means beat as in it's a race, by the way.
Yes, that's what I mean. Like I'm gonna beat him to it. I'm not like I
Well,
texted my buddy Steve that, and I said, he was talking about he made me like the executor of his will, and I'm like, well, that's all great and everything, but I'm gonna beat you to death, meaning like I'm gonna get there first. And he was
you
like,
put me in your will? All
what?
right, I guess I got to kill you. Oof.
Yep. And yes, I'm still gonna die before I turn 30, which is why I'm never turning
Mm.
30. 29 and holding. It was good.
Mm-hmm.
But all right, so we've got some topics here. We've got topics. We've got some anonymous topics. We've got some from Hutsu, and we have one from Vana. Vana, you haven't been here for a little while, and it's great
Welcome
to
back.
see you. It's great to be in contact with you. Thank you for reaching out. It's just awesome to hear from you and hear how things are going. But yeah, we've got a topic from you, and if you'd like, I'd like to start with that one. If you're, I imagine you're still here because you just said something. Like, yeah, all right, cool. All right, so this one is titled "Taking Control of One's Life." Oh, nope, you're gone. Well, it said you wanted to be here when we do your topic.
Ah, shoot. You're gonna
So
have to
now
pick
we're in a
whether
bit of
you're
a
here or
catch-22
you're
because I've
gone.
already announced we're gonna do it, and now you're saying you're gone. Like,
Vanna, you're making us look super unprofessional right now. Could you please make us look
she's like,
better?
you don't need my help. You guys look unprofessional enough on your own.
Oof. Thanks, Vanna. You're great.
Yes, yes,
It's all
you're
the emotional
awesome.
support I needed.
So awesome. Well, what I will do is I will get this topic up here on the screen. and then I will put it up there for you so you guys can read along as I read it aloud. Once again, it's called Taking Control of One's, what is it? One's Own Life. Ha, there we go. Taking Control of One's Own Life. And this is from Vana. And here it is. I recently realized how controlling my parents are. I was the last to realize with my brother's reaction basically being, yeah, dude, sorry. Why do you think we moved out ASAP? I think my brain just chose to ignore it and be blissfully unaware rather than aware and miserable. I only started realizing when I told my friends about the things that I thought were fine, that apparently were not, in fact, fine. I'm basically a senior in high school, and I haven't started driver's training, nor do I have a job. Neither of my brothers live very close, not a close-able distance at the drop of a hat. Since I'm the youngest, I planned on staying with my parents while I at least get through 2 years of community college, but with no transportation or means of paying for it without my parents, I'm completely unprepared for the real world and literally powerless or trapped. I guess my main questions are how can you stay positive and keep momentum when you are powerless in a negative situation? How can I keep a sense of control over my life? And that is from Vana. So thank you, Vana. And first of all, I want to express I'm really sorry you're in this situation. I know it really, really stinks to feel helpless, powerless, to feel stuck, to feel like you don't have any answers or any way out. I know I've been in that position before, where everything just feels unsolvable. And, whether it was my own doing, my own actions that caused it, or if it was just the circumstances around me, I know that there have been a lot of times in my life where I've absolutely felt helpless. And when you look and you try and figure out the answers and it doesn't seem like there's anybody that's going to be able to support you in any way, and especially being in a home where it feels like there's a lot of control happening, and you can really start to feel under someone's thumb. And man, my heart goes out to you because I know how crushing that can feel. And I will say there's an answer, even if it's not obvious right now. And I don't necessarily know what the right answer is, but there are things you can do and there are steps you can take to move toward um, the place you want to be. And even though right now it might seem helpless, it's interesting how life will every once in a while present us an opportunity. Sometimes those opportunities are wrapped up in brick form and they feel like they got thrown at us and knocked us to the ground, and you're like, "Oh man, that really hurt." And then you start to, examine things a little bit and you're like, "Oh my gosh, this is actually an opportunity. This can turn into something good." And I'm starting to get to a point in my life after going through a divorce and dealing with child custody and helping a friend, supporting him do all that stuff too, that, I don't think there's anything out there that's not redeemable in some way. Like whatever condition we might be facing, there is some kind of redemption possible. There's some kind of a way through it. There's some kind of a way out of it. Sometimes it just takes time. Sometimes it takes learning. Sometimes it takes help from another person that we don't even know yet, but they come into our lives at the right point in time. And yeah, it's amazing how life can work sometimes. But I know in that moment where you are right now is absolutely soul sucking at sometimes. It can feel like it just drains the life right out of you. And so, Vana, I am very, very sorry. Vana says in the chat, my brothers and my aunt want to help me get more control and have offered many forms of help, and it's kind of helping me cope. I know this is something that I'll need patience with. Yeah. But that's awesome that you have family members that understand. Like, I like that one of your aunts even is understanding the situation enough that she wants to help you as well. So, um, I am going to go ahead and get out of Ryan's way, and I'm going to let him talk about this because I can't wait to hear what he has to say. But I want you to know, Vana, there is a way out, there is a way through, and this condition, this time where you're feeling this way, it is going to pass. There is, you won't have to deal with this forever, and or the emotional, stirring that happens because of it. So, but right now, I'm going to get out of Ryan's way. So, Ryan, it is all yours.
All right. Well, thanks, Joe, and thanks for that prep work you did there.
Mm,
Um, you know, this, like Joe said, this is a tough place to be in, especially, you know, um, it's one thing to kind of just be. It's wrong to say blissfully unaware, but when you're
mm,
unaware of the issues, there's less anxiety because you don't know what you should be worrying about. Once you realize that there's a problem, that's hard
mm-hmm,
because now you have to recognize you see that problem in every encounter and every interaction with these people, right? Whoever it is, no matter who it is. When you see something like this, it's like now it's at the front of your mind in every interaction, and it makes conversing with them difficult. It makes just everything hard. Um, so what I would like to attempt to do a little bit is and help you answer a little bit of your question, which you said, how can you stay positive and keep momentum when you are powerless in a negative situation?
mm,
Um, it's important to be able to see if you can. And I know there's many times in life where it's like, what could possibly be good about this? It's
mm-hmm,
just bad, you know? And yeah, that's a real question. And sometimes you look at things and be like, yeah, what the heck is the good in that? Like, this is a rather morbid one, but like, like maybe some kind of fire happens and a bunch of people die, and you're like, well, what's the bright side of that? Tell me that, And it's like, well, yeah, it's pretty unfortunate. Agreed. Um, I mean, you hate to say like, well, at least, hey, some of them might be in heaven. That's great. That's fantastic. That's a good thing.
mm-hmm,
There's some mercy there being given to them, and it's like not their fault. They just happen to die, and it sucks. But um, that's a rather morbid thing. And when you look at it, you're like, well, you feel like looking at the bright side of situations is a bad thing to do
mm,
in certain circumstances.
mm-hmm.
It's like your
Right.
brain doesn't want to look at the bright side of things because it feels like that's undermining the value of the thing which causes pain.
Mm,
And that is an understandable situation. That's an understandable thing. So that might be something you're going through right now. You might be in a situation, and I'm not saying you are, I'm just saying you might be in a situation where if something positive comes to your mind, you dismiss it because you feel like it undermines the the gravity of the sorrow or the gravity of the pain that should be, the respect that should be given to the horribleness of the situation. That being happy or being positive is unjustified.
mm,
And so you have to recognize that if that's something inside of you, if if you can help yourself find positive things in your current situation and you find yourself throwing it to the wayside, it's good to learn to stop doing that.
mm,
Even though it's understandable, it's an understandable mechanism in our brain that says, hey, well, this is a, you know, like, when someone dies, you have your time for grieving, and that's good, and it pays them respect, and it helps to heal the wounds of that, that loss. And grieving is an important thing, right? And so there are times where it's not necessarily you lost a life, but you realize in this situation, it's like, well, you've been kind of played, you've been controlled, you've been tooled around,
mm,
maybe, right? And so you might find yourself feeling bad. And that bad feeling can be a tool for recovery, just like the same as when you grieve for someone who's, you lost. Um, that that grieving of loss or that recognition of sorrow might be something you have to go through before you can start to feel impacted by the positives. Because here's the thing. The reality is there are positives. The reality is that there are great positives, but it doesn't mean they will affect you emotionally. It doesn't mean that you will see them, whether they're, even though they're there, it doesn't mean you'll see them. There are always positives and negatives in life, but you have to be able to accept the positives. You have to be willing to say, I'm willing to be emotionally impacted by the positives. And that can be hard. And if you're not there yet, that's okay. You got to work up to that point where you can be, right? And some of that is dealing with the pain that you have. Some things, you were dealt a hand. It's not just, it's not justified, and it was not fair, right? Whatever it is. And it was not good. It was evil, whatever, right? And you have to admit those things. And you have to say, well, those things were wrong. You have to admit it. And then you have to, from that point, recognize like that suffering, that's real. Your feelings are justified. And sort of work through that. And then from that moment on, you have to recognize, okay, my parents are controlling. You know what? Whether or not they intended any harm at all, which they probably didn't. They probably didn't because it's out of their hands. They just happen to be controlling people. People who are controlling, that's an addiction. That's a mental problem that they're struggling with. Just like anybody's mental problems that they're struggling with. It's not something you generally pick to have. It's a problem that haunts you. And it, the desire for control controls your life. The desire for control puts you in a position where you're emotionally in turmoil when you don't have control. And so in order to satiate that, you have to try to find and force control around you to be happy. And that is a horrible place to be in life. It's a horrible addiction. So finding some compassion for them is good and healthy. If you can find some compassion for them and for yourself, that compassion can turn into the soil for like healthy growth beyond the problem. The emotional ability to accept good things, or the emotional ability to get beyond the pain, right, requires that you have some amount of compassion for the people involved, right? And so have compassion for them. Have not just compassion, but some amount of, and I mean this in the most healthy way possible, not in a bad way, some pity on them and some pity on yourself, and that's okay. Just to have a little bit of like, that's really unfortunate. That's unfortunate for their life. That's unfortunate for my life, and it sucks that we're here. Yeah, I feel bad for them. I feel bad for myself. I feel bad for people involved. Just to be able to recognize that that's the reality, and you pity, and you not in like a condemning kind of way, just a compassionate kind of way, like, that sucks. I feel bad for them. That feeling will help you move to the next step, which will be forgiveness, recognizing that you can move on, and allow you to start to accept the positives that are in your life, the many of them. I noticed that, again, Joe already read it, but there are some positives you've already mentioned. And so this, by the way, everything I just said, it's not like a one and done. I think it's kind of like a process you keep on going through, and you repeat it over and over until it's done. you know, it's like you're going to find yourself walking that path over and over until one day you find yourself, you've programmed your mind to accept joy. You've programmed your mind to accept the positives. And at that point, you stop walking that path back and forth. You stop pacing the path. You're there, right? And so, continue walking the path. I see that you've listed some positives here about your aunt and your just your friends and your family outside of the situation, being there for you, or at least telling you that like even just your brother being like, yeah, that's why we moved away. That's a form of just like recognizing like, hey, yeah, no, your problem is real.
Mm-hmm.
Uh, that's
Mm-hmm.
not fake. You didn't make it up. Yep, you're right. And so one of the positives I see is that immediate thing, recognizing that there's a problem, being aware of it, allows you to not be subject to it so much. Yeah, you're still there. Yeah, it sucks to be there and be witnessing the control that's around you and being forced to do things. It sucks. But being aware of it at least allows you to not become that kind of person too.
Mm.
And that is huge. That's a
Mm-hmm.
huge positive. Because I tell you, I have met so many people that are controlling. And when you meet their parents, you go, ah, okay, that's why.
Mm-hmm.
They learned it from them.
Mm-hmm.
And you've got whole family lines like that. Oh, I've seen them.
Yep.
I've seen them.
You can see
So,
multiple generations, starting with the great grandparents, and you can just see the same attitude.
yeah. Yep. So recognize yourself as blessed. Recognize yourself as, oh my gosh, I figured out that they're controlling people, and then I don't have to be one.
Mm-hmm.
And you can catch yourself, and that's going to help you grow so much. So that's a huge positive right off the bat, right? That is a huge positive. So way to go. Um, I mean, that's like one of the biggest positives you could possibly have. So appreciate that and make that part of your story, right? Make that something you strive for. You point out the parts of yourself where you recognize that you're controlling. If you find that it's seeped into your personality in certain parts, like, oh, I noticed I'm a little controlling here, then that would be a great blessing to recognize, oh my gosh, I can fix this. Right here, I can fix this. So, yeah, that's a huge positive. So Vanavi, I'm gonna stop that right there. I'm gonna give it over to Joe, but I hope that was helpful. Let me know if it was. I know you've listed a couple of things here. I'm just gonna read them off real quick. You said this feels like the perfect time to give a reason for suffering another listen. Yeah, dream
Mm-hmm.
on too. Mm-hmm. And I love the
It's
themes
always
of
the perfect time
experience.
for those two songs.
Oh yeah, always. Thanks. Wink wonk. Um, and you also said it's in my nature to be independent and reject control. So it's very difficult to talk to them and take simple requests without hearing the negatives in front of my mind.
Mm-hmm.
Yes, understandable. Absolutely. I get it. Yeah. And so I, I'm, like I said, I'm going to give it over to Joe. I can talk a little bit more again later, but I hope that some of that was really helpful, and just helps your mind work through to help that question that you had, which is to stay positive and keep that momentum, regardless of the situation around you, because the situation around you is going to happen,
Mm-hmm.
and there's always goods and bads happening at the same time. You got to get your brain to focus on the goods, not the bad, because if you focus on the good, that's going to keep the momentum. If you focus on the bad a lot, it's going to keep on stopping momentum every time you start.
Mm-hmm.
Because the reality is the world is as it is, but your brain's only going to recognize the positives or the negatives. I mean, it can get a both. You can recognize both, but
Mm-hmm.
generally speaking, what you attune your subconscious mind to look at, look for, look out for, the objective of your mind, what you're focused on in life. Those things are what's going to pop out to you. So you really want to train your mind to be able to see the positives constantly, because that's what's going to keep your momentum and keep you feeling positive.
Mm-hmm.
So in order to do that, you can listen again to what I had to say, because that's kind of how you step through a little bit, how you step through some of this recovery phase, so that you can then start to see the positives easier without that immediate flashback of like, oh, that's a positive, and dismiss it,
Mm-hmm.
just because of the horrible situation you're in. But
Mm-hmm.
anyways, Joe, I'm giving it over to you. I'm excited to see what you've got to say.
All right. Well, thank you, Ryan, and thank you again, Vana, for this topic. As I said, it hits fairly close to home. My parents themselves are not controlling people, but I have been under the thumbs of multiple different controlling people in my life, and they weren't bosses. Actually, they were generally much closer relationships than that. But and that can be really really tough. Now, I noticed a few things about in this topic. You said that you're the youngest,
Mm-hmm.
and it looks like
Yeah.
you have two older brothers, and so um, I'm. I don't know if there's only three of you and you're the youngest, and there's already been this pattern of controlling that your brothers have seen. It could be a factor of you're the youngest, so it might feel the tightest on you because you're going to be the last one out from your parents' perspective, and they're afraid of seeing you go. I mean, I had to learn a lot just this week. Actually, my therapist gave me an assignment, and I had to take a quiz and read a couple articles about attachment styles. There are secure attachment styles, avoidant, disorganized, and anxious attachment styles, how we attach to other people. And I discovered as I read the articles and took the quiz that I have an anxious attachment style. And it's
Mm.
based on a lot of things that happened growing up. There are a lot of factors of when we're growing up and what kinds of things we experience that cause us to automatically attach ourselves to other people in a certain way. And there's a possibility that maybe your parents have grown up in a situation where they have developed an anxious attachment style. And because of that anxiety in this attachment, they're scared of letting it go. They're scared of it changing. It's not as though you're going to leave and never talk to them, or just go and be totally gone, but they might feel afraid of that. And anytime they see something change, they might default to that type of mentality. And it might be causing them to react a certain way. Okay. Vana says, my two brothers are 8 and 10 years older than me, and I've been the only one living at home since the middle kid moved out 4 or 5 years ago. And the oldest moved out as soon as he turned 18, basically, so when I was 7, turning 8. Okay. So yeah, so you've been the only one there for a while, and you've been the one that their attention has been on, as far as this is my child. I I have a hard time believing. I have a hard time thinking your parents are trying to be malicious or
Mm.
trying to be hurtful or harming or anything like that. I believe what's probably happening, what you're feeling from them, is a response in them that's based in some kind of insecurity, or maybe anxiety that they're having, and maybe they're protective. There's all kinds of stuff. But here's the thing. You know what happens? So, okay, so I went and I saw. I went kayaking the other day, and there's an island, and there's a bunch of goose eggs, and there's geese all over the place, right? So they're in this season now where they're laying eggs and having babies and all this kind of stuff, right? So, have you ever heard what happens when a baby bird is not allowed to hatch out of its own egg? That, like, when you crack the egg for the baby bird, so it has an easier time getting out. Um, that baby bird generally will not survive, because the first struggle they have to go through is getting out of that shell. And when they don't get to do it on their own, they are not equipped for the world. They don't have the strength to make it. And so that's generally what they've seen. And so some of these things, like as a parent myself, I want to provide the best situations for my kids. I want to provide the best, I want to set them up to succeed, right? And my kids go to a private school, and I see all throughout there parents who have agendas for their kids, right? And you can just sense it. You can, when you talk to some of the parents, and you talk, and then you
Hmm.
see how the kids are and stuff like that, you can tell that the parents have an agenda for this kid. Like, oh well, they're going to go through this school, and then they're going to go to this college because that's where all of us went, and then they're going to become a
Hmm.
doctor or a banker or a lawyer or a whatever, right? And this is what my kid is going to do. And to me, that is kind of offensive. Like, I remember sitting down with my oldest son. We sat down and had a burger together, and um, we were my younger son was at a basketball tournament, and so he was with his team doing stuff. And then there was a bunch of time between games, and so he hung out with his team, and I took my oldest. We went to get something to eat, and we were just sitting there, and I explained to him, I'm like, I might be kind of a really weird parent, but I don't have a plan for you. And he looked at me kind of funny, like, what do you mean? Like, he
Yeah,
was a
right. What
little
does
bit
that mean?
confused. Like, and I was like, because I'm, what I want to do is help you discover what you're supposed to be, who you're supposed to be, what kinds of things you're supposed to do. And I'm excited to discover that. I'm not going to push you, to do something that I think is right when it might not be right for you, you know? And I remember it kind of starting to dawn on him, and that was kind of a weird situation. I remember this dad from across the restaurant. It looked like he was kind of hearing my conversation, and he kind of was giving me this evil stare, like, and I was like, oh, oof. Um, but all right, Vana, you've got some more stuff in the chat. I know they want to keep me safe. They're not trying to hurt me, but it's suffocating and not actually allowing me to grow. Uh huh. And they're not responding very well to that criticism. They've always given the argument that I'm the adult, so I know best all the time, and they have heavy double standards. Ouch. Ouch. I am sorry. Because honestly, I always hated that reasoning. I would ask why. I was probably the annoying kid when I was growing up. Why? Why? Well, you need to do this. Why? And I always hated the answer of because I said so. I hated that one. And
Hmm.
I hated the
Hmm.
answer of because I'm the adult and I know better. And I also always hated, when people would say, "Oh, you think that's bad? Wait till you get to be this age and you have to go through this and blah 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 blah." I always hated that too, right? Because what are you trying to tell me that what I'm feeling isn't valid here? You're trying to tell me that the experience that I'm having isn't real, because an emotional experience is real. What you're feeling is real. What you're experiencing is real. And it can be tough to navigate. But you're absolutely right. They want you to be safe, but sometimes it can be smothering.
Hmm.
And generally, that does not bode well for the parent in that situation. I've had, lots of talks with my therapist about parenting stuff, and now co-parenting with my ex, and doing all this stuff, and we've talked about parenting styles and how all these different things work, and what kinds of things lead to a good relationship when kids are grown up, and what leads to, damaged relationships as kids grow up. And to smother a kid and to be controlling of a kid and to do all that stuff as a parent to your kid generally doesn't make for a healthy relationship in adulthood for those children, right? And my goal is to, maintain a healthy relationship with my kids for their entire lives, not just to raise them and then, hey, go be in the world and, we're not going to talk anymore. No, I want to maintain contact. I want to maintain a healthy relationship, all this kind of stuff. And it sounds to me like your brothers have already kind of distanced themselves from your parents. And rightfully so, if this situation is existing. And I feel bad for your parents a little bit, just because they probably don't realize that they're doing it, and they're probably grasping at straws, and they're probably just trying not to lose their children, but in doing so, they're squeezing extra hard, and it hurts you,
Mm-hmm.
Vana, and I'm so sorry. I'm so sorry that you're feeling that squeeze and being smothered, and feeling controlled and everything like that. Um, okay, and Vana says, and the preventing me from growing is downright dangerous for me. I'm almost a senior, and I haven't started any driver training or had a first job yet. I'm going to be applying to colleges soon, but I'm not going to have any way to pay for it or transport myself to it. Okay. As far as logistical things are with all of this, I have been out of the game of driver's training for a long time. It won't be long before my oldest son starts looking at that, so that's going to be exciting. Get to go on car rides with my new driver's son. In a couple years, it's going to be
Oh
good.
wow.
Um, so, what have you looked into what it takes to take driver's training? And um, is this something that your parents won't allow you to do, or is this something that maybe they would, and maybe that you could help them understand that this is something that a functioning adult, at least, at least where I live, that's kind of, in order
Kind
to
of
get
necessary
around
where I
and do
live.
anything, you got to be able to drive, right? Because there's nothing. I live out in the country, and you got to drive to everything,
Mm-hmm.
And so, well, I don't know, like, it was kind of one of those things. Like, if I'm going to be a normal functioning adult, I need to learn how to drive. Or else I'm, you know, there's not going to be a way to do that. Oh, Riku, good question. Can't you put your parents up to the decision? Either you let me earn money, or you will have to drive me every day. Um, yeah, I mean, that would put a lot more stress on the parents, um, for you to not have a driver's license, and they have to cart you everywhere all the time. Uh, Vana says the hurtful part is that they keep saying they'll do it and claiming that they put me on the list and helped me start looking at jobs online, but I need their help to put things into action. Okay, so I'm guessing they keep saying they'll do it, but then they don't end up doing it. Is that kind of what is happening in this situation? Like, there's a bunch of talk of them saying they're going to do things, but then it just not happening. Um, is that kind of what you're dealing with? Uh, okay, Saule. Hey, you have a good night,
Yeah.
and
Good night.
good luck getting smoked out by Canada. I'm sorry for that. Vana says,
Mm-hmm.
kinda, yeah. There's a lot of talk and basic prep, but not a lot of action. All right. So it might be the case. Hi, Hatsu. It might be the case where you might just have to, at some point, call them out and see how that goes. Maybe you've already done that. I don't know. And said, so if this was going to happen, we really need to move forward on this, and I need your help in order to do it. You're telling me you want to help me. You're telling me these things are going to happen, and they're not. So, is there something I need to do to help make this happen, or, is there, like, what do we need to do to make this happen? And you can talk to them about it and see what kind of response you get. If you're still getting stonewalled from your parents on some of that, and if it feels like they're being unresponsive or still, all talk and not much action, then you said you have an aunt and you have your brothers that are willing to try and help support you. One of the best things you might be able to do is contact them, and you don't even need to ask them to do anything for you, but you might ask them, "Hey, this is the situation. what should I do? Like how should I navigate this? Can I make a call? Is there something I can, like whatever. You might need to enlist the help of someone outside of your parents in order to make the driver's training thing happen. Um, as far as jobs are concerned, I mean, if you're going to be a senior in high school, I imagine you might want some money, to do stuff your senior year of high school. So working a job part time or even full time over the summer or whatever might be really, really beneficial. But I understand having a car and being able to drive it to and from work is going to be, pretty important. I remember when I worked at a car wash, there was a guy who had a driver's license, but he never had a car. And in order for him to get to work, luckily the car wash was in the city and he lived in the city of Lansing. And so he was able to jump on buses. But in order to get to work at 8 o'clock in the morning, he had to get on his first bus at like 5:30 in the morning or something like that. And then just like change and go to different buses and get himself across town and do all this kind of crazy stuff. And it was just nuts. But it's way easier if you have a car and you can just take it. Um, so man, Vana, I'm sorry. I know how frustrating this must be. I know how frustrating you must feel right now. Vana says there's places that technically are within walking distance, but it's like 45 minutes to get into town. It's a small city and there isn't a lot of public transport. Okay, like for jobs. All right. So I mean, if you could get a job within walking distance, I don't know if that's a possibility. I mean, in the summertime, a lot of times it's fairly nice. Well, if you're in Michigan, sometimes it's rainy, which is doable. It's just not ideal. Yeah, you know, it's amazing what people will do to get by. It's amazing what we are capable of. There are things that I didn't realize I was capable of until I took a wilderness survival course in college. And they threw us out in the middle of the woods for 3 days
Hmm.
with everything we could have in a coffee can. And then you start to learn, hey, you know what? Maybe I'm capable of more than I was brought up to believe. Because in my situation, it seemed like everything was a matter of life or death. Getting an A was a matter of life or death. Getting into a good college was a matter of life or death. Picking the right college was a matter of life or death. Picking the right major was a matter of life or death. Like everything was this important life or death decision. And what I've discovered is it's not. Because things happen and things get screwed up and we still survive and we still move on. And we can still grow. Vanna says, got to get my steps in between that and marching band. Yes.
Mm-hmm.
Right
That's
on.
great.
That's right. You're a percussionist too. Yeah. Percussion rocks. Yeah, I'm near Flint. Michigan summer weather. Yep. Absolutely. The heat. Yes. Ryan enjoys the heat. I do
I
not.
love it.
Yep. But that's okay. So yeah, anyway, what I would probably do in your situation is I would first of all, I would approach this as calmly and assertively as you possibly can. Try and calm yourself down so you can reduce the emotional output of yourself while you're having this conversation with your parents, because with this frustration and with this tension that you have with your parents, it would be natural for you to get emotionally charged.
Mm-hmm.
And it is for all of us when we're faced with a situation where we're frustrated and, feeling helpless and stuff like that. Our emotions can kind of start to get the better of us. And so if you can take a little bit of time, make sure you're calm, and then just directly and calmly talk to them about it and say, look, I need to learn how to drive, and I'm going to need to do this in order to have a job and be able to function and go to college and do all these things that I need to do once I get done with high school. And I feel like we need to get started as soon as possible on some of this stuff. And I'm asking for your help because I need your help. And because that will come across in a much more agreeable way to them than what I would probably feel like saying to them. And I don't know if you're like me, but I would feel like venting my frustration and being like, look, you said this and you did this and this didn't happen and blah, 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 blah. And, like, because it's frustrating. And I would be so upset. But there comes a point when it's like, I've realized that going that route and, putting my emotions all out there generally just increases the resistance to whatever I'm saying. It has a tendency to shut them down and immediately resist. Like automatically we get into fight mode when we're confronted with someone who's emotionally hijacked. So we get defensive and we're like, oh, and it can really put a barrier in the communication. And so if you can calmly talk to them about it, you might find yourself getting pretty far. Now, if that's still not the case, then I would definitely recommend, you've got an aunt, you've got brothers, they've said they would support you. And it might be worth just a phone call or a text or whatever to say, hey, I need to talk through this. I need to figure this out because I'm not getting anywhere with my parents. And I need to, this has to be straightened out. This has to be figured out. And push is quickly coming to shove, right? Like we're going from push to shove pretty quickly here. You're going to be a senior and things are going to be moving. It's going to be a quicker year than you think. Or my senior year went a lot faster than I thought. But anyway, raw shell on. A raw egg with the shell on. Yes. Hey, August, welcome. It's good to see you. But anyway, Vana, I would definitely those are some steps you can take in order to move this whole thing forward. And I'm hoping as you navigate it further and as time goes on and as things unfold, more ideas will pop into your head. New ideas will come into your head and maybe new pathways of things that you hadn't ever thought of before will come into play, and it could really be helpful that way. Vana says in the chat, we communicate a lot, and they've been really helpful with getting things figured out. Apparently, the oldest is trying to sell my dad his old car. I was originally going to do more schooling while living with them, but I've decided I only want to deal with them 2 years max. I understand that. I understand that. And I understand especially in the frustration that you're in right now. Man, I remember when I was, I think, a junior in high school, I was ready to get out so much. Like, I was like, you know what? I'm moving overseas. I don't want to be anywhere close to any of this stuff. I'm moving to England because at least they speak English there, kind of.
That's it. Yeah. Kind of. Kind of.
Yep. But, over time, as you have some of these critical conversations and, and if you can approach them with a level head, which is hard to do sometimes, then I think things will go a lot better for you. But anyway, I'm going to shut up now because I've talked for a really long time, and I'm going to turn it back over to Ryan. So, Ryan, did you have anything else you wanted to talk about with this situation?
Yeah, you're great, Joe. I just a little bit. I think you're right, Joe. Posing the questions to them, your parents, as could you help me? Another way to say it, and I'm don't actually say it this way, but can you please control this part of my life? And then present them something that they need to do that helps you. Does that make sense? That stuff works. And I don't mean like, obviously your intention isn't to manipulate them, but under under your situation, under your circumstance, you need to be able to communicate with them in a way that gets things done. Yeah, speak their language. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
So it's like Joe said, if you can keep a level head and just communicate to them like, hey, obviously you don't say this exact words, right? But like find a way to say, hey, please control this part of my life. Get me a driver's license. Then they'd be happy to set the appointment up for you,
Mm.
right? Don't make it a task for them. Make it I mean that's a thing that's hard because it's like how do I not make it a task for them? But it's like don't make it like a chore for them. Like they have to
Mm.
do it because you asked. Make it something that you put it into their hands and they want to do it because and then you're doing what they're asking and they want you to do it basically. So staging it is important. So that means saying things like Joe was talking about. Like, I'm going to be an adult soon. It'd be nice to be able to drive, right? These are logical points, right? And you can make those points. And it's like, is there any way that you can think of, and you talk to the parents, that we can get that all settled? Um, or is there any way that you think, blah, 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 I could get some money? What kind of ideas do you have? Saying things like, what kind of ideas do you have? Puts it in their playing book as though they're the ones that get to come up with the ideas, and so they're the ones that, oh, it's my idea, so therefore it's going to be a good one, and they don't have to contest or argue with anybody. But meanwhile, you're just kind of directing the flow of language. It's not the easiest thing to do. It isn't. It takes some practice, and yeah, it doesn't always lead you where you want, but and it's a lot easier to do when you're a person who has more control over the situation than parent and child.
Mm-hmm.
But some amount of that could be helpful and healthy, um, because you plan to stay them for 2 years at least from here.
Mm-hmm.
So that would be good, subtle techniquing to learn. Again, sounds manipulative, but everything we do in conversation is manipulative. Everything. So it's fine. It's not it's not manipulative in a way in which you are intending to cause harm, right? So it's fine. And it's not manipulative in a way which is intending for you to get, I don't know, for to use them as tools, right?
Mm.
You're just trying to get them to allow you to do things that you want to do. You're trying to get them to allow you to get things you should have, like a driver's license. So it's fine, right? It's a good thing. So, anyways, you said you struggle with a lack of action because of how you were raised. So it's daunting, but something I'm trying to fix. Perfect. I also really struggle with not getting emotional with topics like this. Fair enough. Yeah, yeah, it's hard to keep a level head, especially if you haven't done a whole lot of that in the past. And
Mm-hmm.
certain personalities, and you might be one of the personality traits, it's just harder for some people than others, and that's just the way it is. Doesn't mean you can't learn it. Doesn't mean you can't get better at that. It's just that some people it is harder for than others. And to recognize, hey, maybe that's your own personal challenge you have to get good with, then that's awesome. If you can get good with it, then that's super awesome. I mean, it's like that's better than in some respects. That means you have more self-discipline than the person that it was easy for,
Mm.
right? And that self-discipline goes a long way
Mm-hmm.
across all sorts of different areas of life. Emotional control, that's what it's called. Emotional control is an important lesson for everybody to learn. Everybody to learn, and learning it it's a different road for different people, and it's something that helps. That discipline helps with almost every other part of life when it comes to taking action or comes to you know being strict on yourself so that you can be healthy, things like that. Very useful. Emotional control is super big.
Mm-hmm.
So, yeah, work on it. Being able to recognize that that's something you can control, it is something that's possible to control, is the first step, and it's huge. And
Mm-hmm.
so, I give you props. That's great. You know your stuff, right? So, it's just being able to experience the emotion and recognize, okay, that's the emotion. I feel it. All right. what kind of actions am I going to take? Making well note of the emotion, but not necessarily letting it control me,
Mm-hmm.
right? It's like, yep, I've noted you, but I'm going to decide for myself what I'm going to do.
Mm-hmm.
And the more you do that, the easier it gets to have emotional control. Because whenever you're in a state of high emotion, you still have control, right? So it isn't about subduing your emotions so that you don't feel them. It's about training your mind to recognize that you don't have to just burst out whenever you feel a burst. You don't have to do this or that or whatever just because of an emotion. It's recognizing the emotion and saying, okay, it's not a bad thing that you had that emotion, but what you choose to do is doesn't have to be a consequence of it, but it can be.
Mm-hmm.
And especially things like, you know, with a certain amount of energy, right? It's like all of a sudden you feel like a boost of energy, whether it be anger or excitement or whatever. Now you got all this energy. What are you going to do with it? What you choose to do, making a choice is the control part, right? So having that emotional control. And you can do good things with it or bad things with it. You know, you can be really excited and do terrible things. You could be really angry and do wonderful things.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, being able to recognize like, oh, I'm experiencing an emotion that's heightened. That's the first step. Being able to recognize like, oh, I just had a heightened emotion. I'm going to choose to do something. That's great. So anyways, Fonaby, you'll get there. You just keep working that. You keep on working that, and you'll get there. So yeah, that's actually a really good segue into this other question you said. How can I keep a sense of control over my life? And that's it right there. I think that's a big one. Working on your own emotional control.
Mm-hmm.
That is a huge way of keeping control over your life. Because if you don't have emotional control, your life goes every which way, and you aren't controlling it. You're just giving into uh, your innate desire. Sometimes your animalistic desire, whatever it is, your first will. You end up actually being a slave to emotion, which is weird, because that comes from yourself. But emotions are a response to the world around you, so you're actually a slave to the world around you, which is weird,
Mm-hmm.
but that's how it is. So being in control of your actions in recognition, but despite your emotion, is one really great way to keep control of your life, because you won't get sucked into things that you have makes no sense getting sucked into.
Mm-hmm.
You won't be necessarily tripped up into a spiral of just continued anger, or into a spiral of just being controlled by your parents over and over and over because you've given into your emotions over and over and over, whatever, right? So, yeah, that's a great first step. I want to say, my brother and I, a few times when we didn't have a working car, we would, and this was in the summer, we'd ride our bikes 45 minutes to get to our workplace.
Ooh.
And yeah, we lived outside of town, several miles. Um, and, uh, you know, we came from a middle of nowhere town,
Mm-hmm.
on the middle, yeah, called Grayling, Michigan. The only reason
Mm-hmm.
people know about it is it's the stop before Gaylord, Michigan.
Right.
It's the only thing people know it for,
And it's
at
where
least
Good
when I was
Dale's
growing
is.
up. Yeah, Good Dale's, which is the best bakery in the world. Yep,
Yes.
that's where that is. Uh-huh. Joe knows.
Yep.
But anyhow, yeah, so yeah, we on occasion we had to bike. So if you've got a bike, don't be afraid to bike. I know that it's hard when it's hot, but um, yeah, these have been really helpful. I've gotten a lot of sympathy and support from friends and family, but I think I just need some unbiased solutions. Thank you both. Much love.
Oh,
Awesome.
you're very
Yeah,
welcome.
yeah, you're very welcome, and we hope that this has been helpful. Yeah, I recognize a lot of the stuff you can do. a lot of the stuff you can do on your own. A lot of this stuff you can do on your own. And don't be afraid to help yourself, even if it's not within the wishes of others around you. I don't want you to live your life in a position where you're a people pleaser to the detriment of your own health. A people pleaser to the detriment of your own strength, right? You don't have you don't know how to ride a bike. Perfect, that's fine. That's why you mentioned walking. Fair enough. Yep, that does take away one thing. You could learn how to ride a bike if you wanted to. It's a lot cheaper than a car and it helps out. It's a good way to start, and it creates some amount of discipline. A bike is a lot cheaper than a car.
Yes.
And it's a lot better than taking a bus.
It's worth mentioning again, a bike is a lot cheaper than a car.
By a lot.
And you could learn how to ride it. If you've learned if you've learned how to play percussion, you can learn how to ride a bike.
Yeah.
If you've learned how to march and play drums at the same time.
Yep.
March, play drums, and chew gum like you're not supposed to in band class.
You're starting to think that a bike is cheaper than a car? Yeah, it is. It's worth it to mention.
But it's maybe not the best solution. It's maybe not, right? Depending on the roads you have to travel, it might not be that great of a solution, right? So
I would say this, Vanavi. The last thing I have to say is this. If you want to feel like you have some control of your life, this is scary. But this is not a gendered statement, but man up and take control of your life. And what I mean by that is, like, be your own person. Don't be subject to other people. And say when you say you're going to do something, do it. And you say, you know what, I'm going to be the kind of person that's going to go out, just walk to the nearest job and start putting my applications down. And if I get something, I will be the kind of person to walk there. And once I have enough money, I'm going to buy a bike and I'm going to bike there. And once I have enough money and I feel like it's okay, I'm going to buy a car and I'll drive there. I'm going to be the kind of person that's going to do that. Now I recognize it's a big, tall order and that's scary. But that's what it's like to be an adult. And I'm going to tell you something. As scary as that is, it is one of the most freeing, most wonderful feelings ever. Because you feel proud of yourself. You recognize that you're the one who decided to do it and you did it. You worked hard. And there's a great amount of freedom in that. You don't see control over my life. Sorry, don't see control over my own life as the lack of control by other people, but as the presence of my own choices, actions, and control. Yeah, and I'm not saying that, I'm not undermining the fact that your parents are controlling. I'm not undermining that. I recognize that's your situation. I'm just saying, start doing things without having to confront them, and start committing to things like, I'm going to do this, going to get a job. And think about things as, rather than how hard is that going to be, what obstacles will I have to face? Instead of thinking about that, think about, what do I need to get to this? Right? That is the mentality you have to have. Instead of thinking, oh, I want that, but then I'm going to do, I run into this issue, but I could try that, but I'm going to run into this issue, blah, 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 blah. There's that sense of thinking of, like, no matter what's thrown at you, I'm sure you've talked to people like this, especially people who are in some sort of panic or anxiety or whatever. It's like, no matter what you throw at them, they come up with an excuse that won't work. That won't work because blah, blah, blah. You have to remove that kind of concept from your brain and say, what do I have to do to get here? What do I have to do to get that happening in my life? Right? And then once you figure out what that is, you're going to notice that there's some issues and be like, oh, well, what do I have to do to work around those? And you figure it out. But the idea of what do I have to do to blah, 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 get my goal, that really sets your brain in the order which is productive and positive and gives you momentum and makes you move and gets things done.
Mm-hmm.
So that's kind of what I'm trying to get at. That mentality. What do I have to do to get that job? It might be just going out there after school, walking around. Or no, wait, it's a summer break for you. So, going out there in the middle of the day, going to just walking and applying for applications. It might be, it might be something like that. It could be any number of things. But the thing is, don't be afraid to do things that you have never done before.
Mm-hmm.
My brother, give this example a lot. He's awesome. He's one that taught me not to be afraid to do things I've never done before. Just because you haven't done something before doesn't mean it's scary.
Mm-hmm.
Just because you haven't done something before doesn't mean you're going to be bad at it. Or even if you are bad at it, doesn't mean you can't learn it.
Mm-hmm.
We're so often to be like, well, I've never done that before, so I can't do it. Or we think that way. I've never done that before, so that seems like it's out of my realm. I won't be able to do that.
But everything we've ever done,
everything you've ever done has been that.
Yeah, there was a time when we couldn't do it.
Right, exactly. My brother, he's not a mechanic. He has never taken a class in being a mechanic. Has nothing, no idea. But his car broke down one time, and he said, "I'm not paying a mechanic. I'm gonna learn how to do this myself." So he just watched a bunch of YouTube videos, start clinking around in his car, and he fixed his car.
Mm-hmm.
That's crazy.
Mm-hmm.
And then he kept on doing it, and he fixed all sorts of different random issues over and over and over, and he just nailed it. And then it was like, he's not a construction worker. He's never done any construction work in his life. He's never done any designs for architecture. He has never done any of that. He just picked up a couple of books, learned how to make his own, or I guess my own, whatever it is, from scratch, do all the mathematical calculations, and do all the work to create a music studio, and just started taking things out and hammering things in and raising ceilings for the house, things like that, which is like, that's so dangerous. You're crazy for trying to do something like that. Joe helped him. Joe was just like, all right, I'm doing this. This is what you told me to do. I hope this works.
It was kind of funny because like he just, he's very detailed, and so he will get all the details, and I'm just like, dude, just tell me what to do and I'll do it. And so then he'll tell me what to do and I'll do it inevitably wrong because I didn't understand he's like, oh, don't do it like that. And I'm like,
yeah,
then you do it then.
Yeah, you show me and then I'll do that thing you just showed me.
Right.
Then it'll be done. No. But anyhow, my point of all that is, there's no reason to be afraid to try to do something. And it's okay to take action. It's okay to do some things and learn afterwards. And so I encourage you, and I hope that's encouraging. You're awesome, and you can do all of these things. You can get what you want. You can get freedom. You can go to college. You can get money. You can get a car. You can do all of these things. You can learn to ride a bike. You can learn how to fish, right? You can learn. You can do these things. Don't doubt yourself. You're totally capable, all right? I'm just trying to encourage you and help you recognize that you can do these things. You can.
Yep.
Even if you don't realize you can do these, you can. It's the
Absolutely.
reality.
Absolutely. And Vanna, what you just said in the chat is so true. I do that all the time, cutting and dyeing my own hair, tailoring my own clothes, and it turns out okay. So this can't be much different. I just up and did it and figured it out myself. Absolutely. Absolutely. Yeah. There is a way to figure this out. It's figure outable. Even the things
Mm-hmm.
that seem like a black hole abyss of not knowing anything, right? We can figure it out. Other people have done it, other people have navigated it, and people we know have navigated these things. And, you can learn how to do any of it. And I'm sorry, I didn't mean to interrupt you, Ryan.
No, no, no. This is
But
perfect. I was done.
Okay. I just really love what you were saying about, like the perspective that we have. It's almost like the perspective that we're trained to have is there's this path and it's a matter of life and death. This is my experience, right? Maybe you've experienced it too, but in the education
No, yeah,
system that
totally.
is in where it's like,
Especially fresh out of high school, you get into
oh
this
yeah,
position where it's like, oh, everything what you do right now is going to be you for the rest of your life. And you're like,
oh
holy
yeah.
crap, what?
Yeah. So you better make the right choice, but I don't know what I want to do. Well, you better
Mm-hmm.
figure it out and make the right choice and better not make the wrong
Mm.
one. Or it's a matter
That's
of
not
life and
real.
death, and like and all these things. You can't figure out business, you can't figure out this. You need to go to college and continue your education and blah, blah, blah. And I'm not saying there's anything wrong with college. It just depends on what kind of field you're planning to go into. But this stuff is figure outable.
Mm-hmm.
We own a
Yeah, and
company.
you hardly anybody treads one path their whole life. Hardly
Absolutely.
anybody does one job that they get right out of high school or college or whatever for their whole life. You switch around, you always have the option to switch around.
Mm-hmm.
Like even doctors, I've seen them like 12 years in and go, you know what? I don't really want to do this anymore. And they go to something else.
Mm-hmm.
So, and they start over from like the bottom because they didn't trained in the field. They were a doctor and then they decided to become like a daycare
Mm.
professional, something, you know? Anyway, sorry. Yeah, go
You're
on.
totally fine.
Yeah.
Vana, it sounds from in the chat, from what you're saying in the chat, it sounds like you're some stuff starting to click in your head, or maybe it already was clicking and we just reinforced it, but that's really good. I'm glad to hear and read the things that you're saying in the chat because I see hopefulness. I see an attitude that says, you know what? I can do this. I can figure it out. It absolutely is figure outable. One thing I wanted to touch on with emotions, Ryan was talking about emotional control. And just really quick, there's a difference between controlling your emotions and burying your emotions.
Yes.
Okay?
Big difference.
When we talk about controlling emotions, it's not about shoving them down and disregarding them because that leads to trouble. I got myself in major, major psychological problems by doing that for a long, 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 long time. And so emotional control is understanding that these emotions come. Emotions are kind of like the weather, they pass, right? They come and they go. They don't last forever. Given enough time, an emotion will change. Given enough time and maybe a different, maybe even just a different physical environment, right? Sometimes just
Mm-hmm.
taking a walk can change our emotions and help us think more clearly. Sometimes just taking a nap can make us feel more clear. Sometimes just emptying our mind and sitting and looking at nature can change the emotions that we have. Emotions are temporary. We feel them for a reason. It's information for us.
Mm-hmm.
And then we can take that and we can use it to make a better situation for ourselves as long as we're not caught up in the emotion. As long as we can recognize the emotion, kind of separate ourselves from it. Now it's tough in the moment of anger and frustration. It's tough to remember this, but after the emotion calms down, maybe you can look back. I've had to do this many times where I've had an emotional episode and I've been in the middle of it and freaking out.
Mm.
And then it passes like they always do. And then I look back on it and I go, huh, that came and it went. It felt really hard when I was in the middle of it, but it did end. And how, like, now that I'm looking at things a little bit more clearly, how can I shorten that emotional time frame or get the proper perspective for when it comes again? Because our emotions cycle. So your emotions are totally fine to experience. They're valid, right? And it's okay. But just understand what they are. It's not a permanent state that you're in. It's just a moment of, right? So, Robo Ryan, we can't see you typing. That's because he's not.
Oh, I hired a guy.
Yeah,
He just
he
types
hired a
for me.
guy
He
to
just
type.
types my thoughts.
Yeah, yeah,
Yeah.
yep. Oh yeah, and absolutely. Vana, you said, honestly, I'm not super worried about paying for college and what I'm going to do major in because I have faith in my potential for scholarships and grants if I really wanted to. 3.83 GPA, long list of extracurriculars. I'm confident that in whatever will happen after high school. Absolutely. That's great. That's great. You got good grades, lots of extracurriculars. You're in a really good position, you know? And so, like, you will be able to have a lot of opportunities. And that's awesome. And then a lot of opportunities for scholarships, and then like I'm sure there will be financial aid available. I'm sure there will be what's the FAFSA thing, student loans, and there is a way to navigate all this stuff depending on what you decide you want to do. And yeah, you're gonna be totally fine. You're gonna make it through this, and but I sure do appreciate you coming. I sure do appreciate you sharing this topic with us, because this is a big thing for a lot of people, including myself. Because I get frustrated and I feel like I'm being controlled. And I've been there. And I have to remind myself, yes, there is a way through this. Just because I may have handled driver's training and getting my first job already in my life, so I've already done that part. There are new things that hit me all the time that I have to remind myself, hey, I can learn how to do this. I can figure this out and I can make it happen. There is a way to get to the other side of this, whatever it may look like. And maybe I don't have the right idea right now, but maybe I just need to sit down and think about it. Maybe I need to have a conversation or two with some friends or family members or whoever and talk it out. And from those conversations, maybe they will be fruitful in finding answers and new ideas. Vana, I do way too many things to only have one option for my future. I know there's multiple different majors I could do if I wanted. I just kind of have to focus on one at a time. Absolutely. And you know what? You have a great plan ahead of you by thinking community college for your basics. Because what that will do is that will set you up, maybe because you might not have it all figured out by the time you're a freshman in college, of what major you want to be and what you want to pursue. So if you take care of the basic core courses, STEM courses, whatever they call them now, take care of those. And then that will set you up on a foundation to say, you know what, I really think I want to pursue this. And then, but you'll have all the basic stuff out of the way and you can focus on that thing rather than trying to intermingle all of your basic stuff with that thing that you've picked. It works out a lot better that way. Yes, and you can, and you can always come back to us. Don't worry, Wednesday, if you need more help. Yep, you will be okay and have plenty of support. Yep, and you're welcome to reach out. Reach out on Discord. You can reach out on Facebook. You found me on Facebook.
Yeah.
I don't check it very often, but I found it. But hey, you found me. It was pretty cool. So now everybody's gonna know I'm on Facebook.
Oh no. I'll get that part out of the stream later. Just kidding, that's too much work. Sorry, you're outed.
Yep.
Dox yourself, man.
Yeah. You are so cool. Awesome. All right. Cool. Thank you, Vana. Thank you so much for the topic. We talked on this topic quite a long time. It's already 9:30.
Sorry about that, guys.
That's you found Ryan too. Hey.
Sorry, I have not been on my Facebook and have no intention of going back there. Um, and that's been the case for many years.
Yeah.
I
Yeah,
stopped
I
using Facebook
understand.
like 20 years ago.
Yeah. I just would randomly pick up Facebook. I know I need to get more active on it, social media and a lot of things, the goals we have as a company and stuff like that. Like different
Hmm.
social media platforms are important, to have a foot in there.
Yeah.
So, and I was really pleasantly surprised to see your friend request. I was really happy.
Hmm.
So thank you,
Yeah.
Vana. And thank you for your topic. And hopefully we are helpful. And hopefully we didn't talk your ear off. Part of it was, it was an important topic with a lot. There's a
Hmm.
lot of stuff to talk about. And the other thing is, we're just so excited to see you.
Hmm.
And now we've probably scared you away by talking too long.
Yep. Yep. Yep.
'Cause-
All right. You can leave now. I get it.
Anyway, you're awesome. Thank you so much. And yeah, good luck. Keep us posted, on how things are going. We'd love to hear it. Yeah, see you next year. Great to hear
Hmm.
your input. Great to see your messages. Great to see your face. Great to hear an update on your life. And yeah,
Hmm.
don't be a stranger. We love you. So, Hatsu chocolate sandwich. I see you
Yeah.
you got all these foods that are coming through the chat here.
Yeah.
I
Are
was
you
seeing
hungry by any chance?
egg, pineapple, cheese, chocolate, apple, sandwich. You're
Dude, you're
making me
awesome.
hungry. Just
Yeah. Are you doing subliminal messaging right now? You trying to make us hungry? Like, what's going on here?
isn't that interesting? If I type the less than sign and 3 and don't put a space, it comes out like that.
Yeah.
If I space after it, it comes out a heart.
Yeah.
Interesting.
I can fix that for you.
You can?
Yeah, watch this.
You're gonna delete my comments?
No. I got 3 hearts in a row with spaces.
Oh,
You're not,
I can't
you're not
get.
gonna.
I'm not getting it.
Yeah.
Anyway, doesn't
Let me
matter.
tell you how to do it. Yeah. Do anything else other than a space, and then you remove it later. So you do
Oh,
like equals 3, 4, space, equals 3, 4, space, equals 3, 4. Then you remove the fours and you'll have it fine.
interesting. Okay, I'm not gonna try
Did
it
it
right
work?
now. We need to get to another
Yeah.
topic.
Oh, whatever, Joe.
If we're gonna do
We've
another
got
topic, we
time.
need to do it now.
We've got 20 minutes left. All right.
I
Good
know.
deal.
And Hatsu, you are still here. So how
Yeah.
about we do one of your topics? Do you have one that I see you've submitted one recently? Would you like us to do your most recent one? Yes, Ryan is too big brain for me too. Thank you,
Well,
Riku.
see, it's just the camera work. If I had an accurate camera, you'd see that my brain is actually taking up a very small amount of space.
What?
It's just dense. It's not a big brain.
Are you calling
Just
yourself
dense.
dense?
Yeah, I'm calling myself dense.
All right.
Dense. That's funny. That sounds like it's both an insult and a compliment.
Yep.
I've got small wrinkly brain. Small wrinkly dense brain. Not
Okay.
a smooth brain over here.
Gotcha.
Mm-hmm.
Lies. Yes. I
Lies.
agree. Um
So
many
many wrinkles.
wrinkles. Look at
Yeah,
all those
I've got like
wrinkles.
3, at least 3, maybe 4.
I got wrinkles in my forehead when I do that.
I got a couple.
Look at all them. Look at all that.
Wow, look at that tasty wrinkle brain.
Tasty wrinkle brain.
I don't know why I said tasty. That's not a good. It's not a good act. Adjective. There we go. That's not a good adjective to use in that scenario.
Yes. All right. Well, let's move on to Hatsu's topic. We can talk about this one.
Yeah.
And so this one
Sounds
is
like a
called
great plan.
Oh boy. Joe, have you ever considered cosplaying Megamind? I have not until
Ooh.
now.
For my
No, I
dyslexia told me
totally
it was
have.
Mega Man. And I was like, ooh, Mega Man's awesome.
Megaman, but
Mega Mind.
Megamind. I
Yeah.
got
I like
the
Mega Mind.
head,
He's
you
cool.
know. Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, you are pretty big brain.
Yeah.
Yeah,
My head is
that's true.
weird shaped like that, right?
Yeah, it's super sexy.
Yes. Thank you. You're welcome. All
You're
right.
welcome.
Cool. All right, Hatsu, we will do your topic. This is called Diagnosed with Autism. And I will put it up on the screen so you can read along while I read it aloud. And it reads as follows: I was diagnosed with autism last week. What should I do now? And that's from Hatsu.
Fair
That's
enough.
a really good question. What do I do now? I'm not exactly
Yeah.
sure. But I do know there are things you can do. There are things to learn. There are things to have figured out. It might also take help from other people that are um, you might need to find some people that can help along with this as well. People that you can trust. I know that there have been times in my life where I didn't feel like I had a lot of people I could trust. Um, but hey, you know, part of being on the autism spectrum, there are different types,
Many.
of things that people with autism experience in different areas of their life, it's and there are different levels and stuff like that. And so some of it could be, you may have to have some kind of an approach that's tailor made to your specific level and type of autism. That's whatever it is that what are the types of things that might be more of a challenge. But also, one of the things I've learned about people with autism is that they excel greatly in certain areas of their life. And it's different for each one. I have a cousin who has autism who is incredible with animals.
Hmm.
Absolutely incredible with animals, right? And just has this focus and also has a great love in her heart for these animals and for people around her too. And it's interesting because she's a martial artist, and that was a connecting point for me and my boys to get to know this cousin because I think she did karate and we did taekwondo, but it was a point of connection that we had, and it kind of bridged a little bit of a gap, and it made it so we could communicate a little bit stronger just because we had that connection. But she's got a tremendous connection with animals. I know that my best friend's daughter has autism, and it looks like she is musically genius level. Just the way she picks up an instrument, she watches how we hold it and gauges how to hold things properly, gauges, like, she just notices all those little details and then does it, and it has an absolute focus in doing it well and making it sound good, like it's amazing. There are others that have high level math competencies. There's it seems to me that any person I've ever met with autism, while there might be an area of their life that is a bit of a challenge, it is more than made up for in their genius level approach to some other aspect of their life. Does that make sense? So
Hmm.
when I see someone with autism, more than trying to figure out what might be their challenges are, I'm looking for what are they really good at, because I know there's something in there, and I just want to find it. I want to see it because that's, I don't know, that's exciting to me. But yeah, um, Z- Zephyrus Reaper. Says it doesn't change anything about you at all. The thing about it is that you are born that way, so nothing about you has changed at all. Just learn what you can. Um, yeah. Vana says I have ADHD, but I had a huge hyperfixation on learning disabilities, and there's a lot of resources online. Absolutely. Um, yep. And Hatsu, you know what? It explains why you always talk in a monotone voice, but that's fine. I've always enjoyed the time we've spent together talking. I've always enjoyed the time we've spent together gaming. You know, you're great to be around. And, like, hey, just because you've been diagnosed with autism, and I know you also have ADHD, that it doesn't necessarily have to change things a whole lot. It might provide some answers and also some new questions that that you can learn, figure out, or get some help with. So, with that start, I'm going to turn it over to Ryan and see what he has to say. So, Ryan, take it away.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Honestly, Hatsu, that's great. I know that it's kind of weird to say, well, it's great that you have autism. What I mean to say is that's fine. I've had a lot of friends in my life that have autism, and they're all good people. Yeah, they had their challenges, and it's great that when they discovered that they had it, they could at least recognize where their challenges were, and that helps them to start helping themselves a little bit better. Maybe your area is, I don't know, it could be anything like reading the room is a pretty common autistic issue. Just being able to read the room, understanding how understanding the emotions of other people around you and how your comments might have an effect on them, things like that. It's a pretty common one. But there's all sorts of different things, and it's a spectrum. So, whatever it is that you find that you're having a challenge in, recognize that that's okay. Even people who don't have autism have challenges in all sorts of different areas in their life. But being able to recognize that, okay, yeah, this is where my issue is, that's helpful because it at least allows you to recognize and change your behaviors a little bit to, you said, yeah, I don't understand mine or anyone's emotions. Yeah. So at least allows you to understand, okay, this is an area that I'm not very good at. And knowing that you're maybe not the greatest at it doesn't mean you should run away from it, but it allows you to, at times, question yourself. It's like, is this the right approach? Is this is this the right approach? Maybe I should ask someone, what's the right approach? How do I engage in this conversation now? And it allows you to just, in any scenario, like let's say you're in a situation and you recognize, hey, maybe I'm not reading the room right now. I should ask somebody in the room. And it gives you that opportunity to say like, hey, this is an area I struggle with because I have autism. What's going on? Can you talk to me about it? Like, I'm not understanding right now. And people will probably be happy to explain, like, oh, understood. Right now, whatever that person just died, or whatever it is, right? And they're gonna try to explain to you, right, how they feel and why they're affected, blah blah blah. So it allows you an ability to, if you can kind of understand yourself and where your dilemmas are, you can approach people with that understanding and help them help you, aid you in that relationship with them, or the relationship with the community, or whatever it is. If it's like, hey, you can come to someone in private and say, hey, I'm just having this issue. I don't think I'm reading the room correctly, or whatever it is, right? And say, like, could you help me understand how I'm supposed to act in this environment? Maybe it's like a strict room, like you get called into court to help serve a case, and you're just like, hey, look, I'm autistic. I'm not good at reading the room. Blah blah blah. So I need some guidance here. And you have that if you have that what do you call that level of humility to be able to approach people and say, look, I've got autism. It's nothing to be ashamed about, by the way. You say that's just a fact. It's just how it is. People aren't going to shame you, right? And just say, look, I've got autism, and so I don't know how I'm supposed to act in a courtroom, and I'm kind of worried about this. Can you give me some assistance? Can you give me guidance in how I'm supposed to act? What's appropriate and what's not appropriate to say? Should I just stay quiet and pretend I'm not here? Like, what do I do? Knowing your faults helps you go and get really good movement forward in life. So it's great that you've discovered this.
Mhm.
And so that's great. That's really great. Don't be sad about that. Just be like, okay, that's been the case the whole time. That's fine.
Mhm.
So now you can take this and you're like, okay, now I know that I have areas in my life which might not be the greatest. Let's figure out what those are. Maybe ask the doctor how they assessed you and why they figured out you had it. What points you should look out for. What things you should look out for in your life that you might not be good at. And then also, like Joe said, what points in your life you can maximize, right?
Mhm.
It's like when you're, I don't know, I'm just going to draw into a game. Like when you're playing Fortnite and you've got like a certain gun and you're getting your perks and you're like, what perk should I pick? And it's like, oh, this one matches my gun, right? That's maximizing, right? And
Mhm.
so you want to do that with your life. You want to say, okay, what parts am I good at? How can I get into those fields? How can
Mhm.
I utilize how can I utilize those strengths to improve those strengths? How can I what can I invest my time into that will make my strengths even stronger? What can I invest my time into that will make my strengths useful tool for people around me? A useful tool in my communication with other people, a useful tool in etc. Right? And so being able to start to recognize those things could be life changer, could be a game changer in your relationships, it could be a game changer in your productivity, it could be a game changer on where you want to go with your life. So I really like what you said, Zephyrus. That's a fantastic statement.
Mhm.
I agree completely. Um, this doesn't change who you are, doesn't change, you're still you and you're awesome.
Mhm.
Right? The only thing it does is it gives you a bit of information with which now you can use to strengthen the weak parts of you and also continue to strengthen the good parts or the strong parts, not that good or bad, but just the parts that you happen to be talented. Right? So this is just information that you can use. It's not information that says, "Oh, you're a bad person," or you know, you're different now, or you've always been different. Everybody's different. Everybody's just different. That's
Mhm.
the truth, right? Everyone's different, and we all have different brains that we're working with. We all have different understandings of situations. We all have different reactions to things, etc. And autism is a spectrum, right? And so you aren't going to be the same as the other autistic people. It's not cookie cutter. And so, yeah, you have your own thing to go through, just like everybody else. You have your own faults to figure out and your own talents to figure out, just like everybody else. But what you can do is you can utilize this as a tool to help you recognize what are the tendencies for autistic people. What can I, just like other people said in the chat, um, go online and research and see what it does mean. What does this mean for you? And then utilize that to be the best you can be.
Mhm.
I mean, that's what life's about. And it doesn't change that fact, you know? And that's what I think is great about this disability or any disability. It's like, you have ADHD, right? It's like, okay, but does that change what life's about? Life is about like being great and stuff, right? Like life can be about whatever you make it, but it doesn't remove those things, you know? And be like, oh, I have autism. It's like, okay, okay. I understand you have autism. It doesn't mean you can't be great. It doesn't
Mhm.
mean you're not a good person. It doesn't mean anything like that. It just means you've got a condition that you're working with in your lifetime. Okay, cool. We've all got those. Some
Mhm.
are more severe than others.
Mhm.
Yep, for sure. Like some people can't walk. That's their condition. It's like, okay, that's rough. Yeah, they can't walk. Other people, they have got all sorts of different stuff going on, but we're all in the same mission, right?
Mm-hmm.
We're all here together to be good, to be a force for good, to to make this world a better place. And we can do that no matter what our disability is. In fact, our disabilities can be something that compounds our ability. In fact, what I find most often in life is that it seems to me that the people who are oppressed with the hardest stuff in life can be the people that make the biggest difference. You know? And that's
Mm-hmm.
awesome. I mean, I hate to bring this up, but it's a very common thing. You've got people who are prodigies, like born super good at like something. And everyone's like, "Oh, look at them. They're like 3 years old and they're doing they're able to like do every kind of spelling from every kind of uh, you know, culture, or they can do crazy math stuff, or they can play any instrument or whatever it is, right?" And then it's like, "Cool, that's really cool. They're only like 5, 6 years old, blah blah blah." And you notice that, and then when they grow up, like past the age of 18, you never hear of them. They're gone.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
They're just gone with the wind. They're gone. You don't hear about them anymore. You don't see that they did anything great with their life. You don't know what any of that is, because they got celebrated for their huge talents that they didn't have to work really hard for, generally speaking. And I'm not saying that prodigies can't be incredible people, but my point is, being a prodigy doesn't make you an incredible person. Working through your hardships is what tends to make you an incredible person.
Mm-hmm.
A person that other people want to follow, right? Working through your hardships is that's what inspires other people. You know? That's the truth of it. And so now you're faced with this, with a big opposition in your life. It's like, okay, I've got autism. Great. Now you know. You've got this dilemma, but hey, all the more fuel to inspire those around you. All the more fuel to do great things. Don't forget that. That's what I got. I'm going to give it over to Joe.
Right on. Thank you, Ryan, and thank you, Hatsu, for the topic. Thank you for sharing. And I remember you DM'd me this in Discord, and I know we talked a little bit about it. And
yeah, sorry, you did. You DM'd me too, and I didn't really have much time to respond, but yeah, I really appreciate that you did.
It's been busy. It was busy for Ryan like a week ago, and now things are getting busier for me, and kind of for both of us. It's getting fun and busy and good. But yeah. So hopefully, I will do my best to keep in contact as best I can. And if I'm busy, it doesn't mean that I love you any less. It just means that I'm busy.
Same here.
So, but anyway, when it comes to this topic, yeah, I'm with Ryan, and I'm with what I was talking about before. Like, just because you have this diagnosis, it doesn't mean that your life has to change all that much. It just means that you might have some better answers to why things are a certain way, and you might have a better pathway knowing this information, because now you can determine, oh, I know that this particular point is going to be a bit of a challenge for me, so I can do some extra preparation here, or I can learn how to do things better in this area. Or, maybe it's the opposite thing. This is where my strengths are, so now I know where I should be heading as far as pursuing career, as far as pursuing whatever, right? I mean, basically learning this stuff about ourselves, it doesn't make us now, technically, I know it's probably considered a disability. And in some ways, yes. But in other ways, not necessarily. It doesn't make you helpless, is what I guess what I'm trying to say, right? There are many things that I've experienced in my life, and many conditions that I've had that I have felt were debilitating. at the time and stopped me from doing things, or or held me back. We talked in our last topic with Vana about people controlling us, and now we're talking about autism. I don't think I have. I don't think I'm on the spectrum. If I am, it's very, very mildly, slightly. Um, but my therapist has said multiple, multiple times, she's like, I think you have ADHD. I'm about sure that you have ADHD, right? Like, just from talking to me for over the course of almost 2 years now, every Friday for an hour, like, she's said, probably starting about 3 months in, she started saying, I think you probably have ADHD. We might want to get you checked for that, da 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 da. And like, then, a couple months later, yeah, I think you might have ADHD.
It's the
And
percussion.
just like, yeah, we all have ADHD, right? And
Well,
I've
I'm a pianist and
noticed,
technically percussion, so that's
well,
why I have it.
I just learned exactly. See, now I just learned about the hyperfixation part of ADHD. I didn't realize
Mm-hmm.
that until a couple years ago, and that makes a lot of sense because I have a great tendency to hyperfixate
Yeah, me too.
on stuff, and sometimes not good stuff. Sometimes it's very to hyperfixate on it causes a problem. I've been in those positions before too, right? It's not just something where like, oh, I'm extra focused on something. It's a fixation that then causes a rift in my life, maybe in a relationship or something like that, right? Like, there's this hyper fixation and I
Mm-hmm.
can't shake it. And I'm like, ugh. But anyway, all that aside, there are times when I've been diagnosed with stuff and I had considered it a crutch. I considered it something, oh, well, this closes all kinds of doors for me. And so I considered it a limiting factor in my life. Right? And so then your self talk can start to deteriorate. Like, my self talk would go down and down and down. Well, I have this condition. I have this thing. There's nothing I can do about it. This is just really stinks and I'm never going to be able to get past it. And so here I am and I'm stuck in this soup and I'm here, and it'd be frustrating and it'd be depressing and it'd be maddening and like all kinds of stuff, right? And I get all emotionally worked up, and maybe I'd even get hyper fixated on the fact that I had this particular condition. And then that's a problem too, because now I'm all focused on it and it's taken up all my mental space and I can't get done with things that I need to get done. It can get to be a problem. So I want to tell you, like, try to avoid that, because first of all, it's a lie that I would tell myself. And so if you're telling yourself that I have this, and so now I'm all limited in all these areas and I can't get to where I want to go and it's because of this, that's absolute garbage. You still have many, many opportunities. You still have powers beyond what you realize. You still do. And I know, because I've talked to you and I've hung out with you. I know you have power within you.
Mm-hmm.
And sometimes it's a matter of just refining that power and shaping it and directing it, rather than looking at this is what I would do. Like, I totally would do this all the time. I'd get a doctor would tell me something and then I'd be like, oh my gosh, well, this is what I have. And then I would get input from people like maybe my parents or maybe other relatives or maybe well-meaning friends or something. And well, don't overexert yourself. Don't go too crazy. You do have this thing going on. And so you probably ought to just, take it easy and stuff like that. And they're well-intentioned. They want to keep me safe and happy and all this kind of stuff, right? But all that did would it just limited me even more. It made me feel even more worthless. But you're not worthless. So you have autism. Great. That answers some questions and it poses some new ones. And it gives you some things to work on, and it gives you the answers on how to work on it. Because there are experts who have written all kinds of articles, and there's all kinds of information out there, and there's all kinds of specialists in autism now that have figured out ways to make this work and to make this something where you can function properly. My therapist is hilarious. My therapist calls me a high functioning neurotic. She's like, you're a high functioning neurotic. I'm like, yeah, you know what? This is not lying.
That's great.
Ryan and Joe on Adderall would be a sight to see. It is a sight to see. You know what? I'm incredibly focused. I have taken Adderall before. And you know,
yeah, I used to take one.
You know, I can get lots done, man. It's crazy. But anyway, so just if I were to recommend anything, Hatsu, I would say try not to let this sink into your mind as being a major disability. Because I don't think this closes any doors for you. In fact, I think it probably opens doors for you as well. Sometimes we get hit with stuff. Sometimes we learn stuff about ourselves. Sometimes we get diagnosed with conditions. Sometimes other people do things to us and it messes us up. Sometimes, you know, life brings us a whole cocktail of crazy all throughout our lives. And we all get to deal with our own specific cocktail of crazy.
And the cocktail never stops being stirred.
It doesn't. Or shaken.
Yeah, shaken or stirred.
Yep, whether you're James Bond or not, whether you want it shaken or not, stirred or stirred, and whatever, who knows, right?
Yeah.
But here's the thing. Like, you totally can still do what you want to do. I would imagine if you have a desire for any type of area of life, it's probably something that you have a great interest in, which means you probably have a propensity towards it. It means you probably have like an inclination to be able to do it. It might be one of your strong points to be able to do that. And I find myself shaming parents in my mind and doctors in my mind and stuff like that, because I'm like, you know what? So many of us, you know, like there are so many different careers out there and so many different career paths out there, and so many of them are unconventional, but they still work. And they still make money, and people still succeed at them, and people still make a difference in other people's lives with them, and still can be successful in these areas. But I hear all the time parents, oh, well, that's not a real career. That's not, well, blah, blah, blah. You know, and I'm just like, seriously? What if that's what your kid was designed to do? I met a parent at, I actually got to know my son's basketball coach. He's also one of my son's best friend's dads. And they're on the baseball team together. So I was talking to him at a baseball game, right? And we were talking about our kids and different stuff, and on ourselves as well, and what we've got into as careers and everything like that. And I love this guy. I absolutely love this guy. Because it was like, you know, so many parents at this school are either bankers or lawyers or doctors. And I talked to this guy, and he's had a few different jobs throughout his career. Now he's actually the dean of students at the school that my kids go to, and the athletic director of the school. But you know what he did? He went to college, and I don't remember if he said he graduated or not, but he studied like sports officiating. And that's what he did for a living. He was an official. He was an umpire or a referee or whatever at all kinds of games for different stuff. And that was his job for years and years and years. That's what he did because he loved it. That's so far outside my wheelhouse. Like, I'm not interested in doing that at all. But I know somebody's got to.
Never even thought of that as a job opportunity
Right.
in my life.
Right. Totally unconventional, right? And I see this guy and I talk to him his oldest son has now graduated. Just recently graduated high school, and he's not going to college. He decided, because of what he's into, he wanted to become a mechanic, and he found an opportunity at a dealership where they will train him and give him a job at the same time. And he already knew a fair amount just from his own personal study. He didn't take any classes in it. He didn't take auto shop in school. He didn't do any of that stuff. He just worked on cars himself, figured out he loved it, and now this is the opportunity that he's in, and he loves being there. He loves being at this dealership. He loves doing the job that he's doing. He loves it. And this dad and mom, both of them, they are so encouraging and proud of their son for taking this opportunity and doing it and going after it. Because they understand, it's not necessarily about having that conventional pathway that everybody is saying, oh, you got to do this and you got to do that and you got to make sure you do all this right, and it's a life or death situation. And if you get it wrong, you're messed up. And you're going to wreck your whole life if you don't do it this way that I said. And that's a jab at a high school counselor I used to have. But yeah, but like, seriously, there's so many things you can do with your life. And this doesn't have to stop you at all. In fact, it might just refine your search and make it easier to figure out, hey, this is what I'm strong at. This is where this is where I see myself being. This is where it feels right to me to be. And this is what I'm good at. And then you can go that direction. You can find other people who have gone in that direction and you can study them. You might not be able to get into contact with them, but you can learn about them. And you can figure out what they did to get where they wanted to go. And you can follow in those footsteps. And don't let anybody who seems to be an authority figure judge you for what it is you might be built to do. We're all put here for something. We're all put here to do something. We're built to be something. We're built to do something in this world, right? And we've got this mixture of interests and talents and skills and all this stuff that makes up what we are. And, even all that stuff that we do doesn't even pale in comparison to who we are as people and the impact we can have on other people while we do what we do. I think that's even more important than completing the task is, who are you helping? Who are you serving? How are you making this environment better for those around you? I think that's far more important than the task we're accomplishing. Because I can accomplish all kinds of tasks. But if I'm not helping my fellow man out, it seems to me like my energies would be better spent while in the doing of my tasks if I can help others, if I can help make the world a little bit better of a place, if I can help make a difference in somebody's life. That's the big ticket right there. And you can totally do that. Even with some of the social challenges that autism might bring. even in your own special way, you can make an impact in people's lives. You've made an impact in mine.
Mm-hmm.
You have. The times
Thank you.
we've been able to spend together, the times we've had to talk, you've made an impact on my life, and a good one. And I appreciate you. So, just because you got this, just because you got this diagnosis, it doesn't change a thing about who you are or what you're capable of. You're still capable of more than you give yourself credit for. And you're still an infinitely, uniquely valuable member of this universe with an energy that is all your own and a beautiful energy that is all your own.
Mm-hmm.
So I thank you, and I hope that I can help you feel a little bit better, because I can understand getting a diagnosis like this might be disheartening. And it might even be presented in a disheartening way, like, oh, you've got autism. They might say it in a way that is disheartening. Like, I expect when a doctor comes up to me and says, Joe, you got cancer, or Joe, you got this condition, or Joe, you got something, and it's going to limit your time here on Earth. And I'm like, well, my time was already limited on Earth. Like, okay, this just gives me a little bit more of a time frame, so let's go get some stuff done. Right?
Yeah, I like that.
It's not going to be like, oh, no. No, man. Okay, fine. It was already going to be that way. I knew my time here was finite. All right, well, what can I do from now until I have to stop? And that's kind of the way I'm choosing to look at things now. Like, what can I do from this point where I am right now till the time I have to stop working for whatever reason? Either I'm restrained to a hospital bed or stuck in a padded room, or
oh yeah.
or whatever. What can I do while I'm here? And I'm telling you, Hatsu, you can do a lot, even when it seems like the odds are stacked against you. There are ways to figure it out, and I'd be happy. I'm already happy to be a brother with you on this journey. I'm already really happy for that, and I hope that can continue. So anyway, I don't know. That's pretty much what I had to say. So I'm turning it back to Ryan.
Awesome.
With that $1 million smile. Look at that thing. Let me get
I'm
a
just
close-up on that.
I love what Sister Frisk is saying in the chat. So yeah, you know what? Joe, I think you laid that down awesome. I don't want to take too much time. We're already 20 minutes over. I just want to say one last thing. Joe was already touching on it a little bit. I just want to say it again in a little bit more in-depth way. Try to stay away from the temptation to look at your condition as a justification for why you weren't good enough, or something along those lines.
Mm-hmm.
When you're diagnosed with a disability, it's not a, all right, this is why you were never good enough card. It's not like, oh, this is why you're allowed to be a failure compared to other people. That's a totally bad way of thinking about things. And I know that that's a temptation that many of us fall for.
Mm-hmm.
In fact, there are many of us who actively seek out to get diagnosed with something so that they have a justification for why they aren't good enough.
Mm-hmm.
They're like, I've got to have something. That way, it's okay that I'm not as good as other people. Thing is, that's all just a bunch of hogwash.
Hogwash.
Because, of course, no one's perfect, first of all. And what you're good at isn't going to be what everybody's good at. And what you're bad at isn't going to be what everybody's bad at. And you're not here to be compared to anybody. Everybody's distinct, everyone's different. And it's not about, like Joe was saying, you're an incredible person. You're a human being with incredible, insane amount of dignity that we can't even measure. You're worth being here. You're worth fighting for. You're worth loving. You as you are right now, autistic or not, you, not because of your autism, not because of your problems, not because of your strengths or the good things you've done. You right now, who you are, is worth loving.
Mm-hmm.
And no one can take that away from you. And it doesn't matter what your disability is. So if you have those thoughts that creep in there that say, it's like, oh, it was because I have autism. I'm just not that great of a person. I'm allowed to not be a great person because I have autism. Those kinds of thoughts, don't let them eat at you. Don't use them as an excuse to accept that you're a failure, because the truth is you're not a failure. So don't give those thoughts a second thought.
Mm-hmm.
Just say, that's a dumb thought. That's a dumb thought. I'm not a failure. I failed at things. We all have.
Mm-hmm.
Every
the most
human being
successful
has.
people fail.
Yep, the most successful people in life have failed until they've succeeded.
Mm-hmm. In fact, a lot of times the most successful people are the ones who have failed the most in order to get there and just kept going, even in the face of those failures.
Yep.
A failure is not a person, it's an event.
Right. So, yeah. Insist, yes. Get some people's Discord, man. I think that's awesome. Go for it. Make some friends. Make some other autistic people, friends with people who are going through similar things, because that's a great way to go through it and handle it and figure it out. I applaud you for making that step, Hatsu. That's awesome. Way to go, man. So yeah, that's all I wanted to say is don't fall into that trap, and everything Joe said is perfect. I'm done.
Well, everything you said is perfect.
No, you're perfect, Joe.
You're not any less than perfect.
Thanks. Appreciate it.
You're welcome. You may not be perfect, but you're not any less than that.
Not any less than perfect.
So, yes. Awesome. Well, thank you guys so much for being here. Thank you, Hatsu, for that topic. Thank you, Vana, for your topic. Man, and all you guys in the chat, it was so great to see you. It was names that I haven't seen in a while, and I'm really excited to see that you're all still alive and kicking and doing all right, and back and contributing to the chat and having fun. Like, man,
yeah, it's so great to see you guys.
So great. You guys are awesome. And I think next week, can't remember if next week I will be here or not. I don't know. We'll find out next week. There might be a baseball game. I know there are 2 Wednesdays coming up when I will not be here. Ryan will be here with somebody else. But I'm not sure if next Wednesday is one of those or not. Okay.
We'll find out when we get there.
We'll find out
when we get there.
Right, yeah, we'll find out before we get there. I'm sure there'll be some kind of email. But either way, you guys, thank you so much for being here. And I love you, and I can't wait to hang out with you again. And we will be back, whether I am or not. We will be back next Wednesday on this show, Don't Worry Wednesday. And, man, again, if you have something you'd like us to discuss, go to don'tworrywednesday.com. Click the submit a topic button, fill out the thing, and we'd be happy to do your topic. We'd be happy to talk about it. And, it's just so amazing. I love being here with you guys. I love being here with Ryan. And, you guys just make my week a lot more special every Wednesday. So I hope we can do the same for you. And until next Wednesday.
We love you too.
Love you. You're awesome. And we'll see you next time on No Worry Wednesday. Until then, have a wonderful, wonderful life. And we look forward to seeing you again next time. So take care, you guys. We love you.
Yep. Love you guys. Bye now. Peace.
Bye bye.